So when we attach interfacing on the hem of a lined garment, it is important that the interfacing be the width of the hem plus about 2 centimeters, maybe 2.5 centimeters. The main thing is that when we place it fold line to fold line and the hem is turned up, that we have interfacing sticking out above a minimum of 0.5 centimeter, anywhere up to 1.5 centimeters. So 1.5 centimeters is plenty, probably more than you need. 1 centimeter is good, 0.5 centimeter minimum. So I've already shown you for the unlined garment the hidden cross stitch, the line stitch option. I'm going to show you with this one the prick stitch option. So we will again be doing the cross stitch on the 3 sides. So I'm just going to quickly do that. So your cross stitch or catch stitch, either one, again 1 layer at a time, and on the sides making sure that you're touching your seam line. Here's how you get a knot out. You have a knot, you get your needle in there and pull on the loop. Okay, moving on, cross stitching it. So this technique is comparable to the other technique in that it is stabilizing the interfacing in place on the garment above the hemline, but overlapping the hemline or the fold line by at least 1.25 centimeters. 1.5 centimeters is fine as well. The measurements are important, but it's more that you have a proportion happening. Sometimes you're not going to have as much interfacing available and you can only put 1 centimeter down. That's fine. It's more a question of having something crossing over the fold line so that there is a nice energy given to the finish. So if you've ever altered a tailored jacket or made a tailored jacket, there is interfacing put in the hem of the sleeves, there's interfacing in the hem of the jacket, and with the higher end couture sewing, we try to emulate anything that will give us really good structure, really good hang, really good hand, all those words. So lots of things out there do not have interfacing in them, and you know, we have, as a society, here's your lecture, we has gotten used to things being made inexpensively, because yes, this takes time, but as you proceed through your sewing, you're going to make some choices as to what you like the feel of and what will give you a long wearing item. Okay, lecture over. All right, so we've done the cross stitch around. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to do the prick stitch, so the tiny back stitch from the right side. I've already lined up my fold line. Yes, it's only faintly marked, but it's lined up on the hemline, and I'm doing the prick stitch following my hemline. If you're going to err on one side or the other, you go towards the hem, not towards the body, and you're making sure that your stitches are no larger than 1 centimeter apart. More like 6 millimeters is a nice size. Again, there's always exceptions to that, but you don't need to go super tiny, but you should be aiming for, you know, no bigger than 1 centimeter apart. And again, check it along the back. You can see it's following along the fold line. And you can also see I just erred and I just did a little bit off into the garment, which is not what I wanted. But I'm going to keep going. Proof that I am also human. All right. So when you finish, you will pop back to the wrong side and you will tie a knot. If you don't have enough thread to do the full crochet knot, you can just take a tiny stitch and put your needle through. Do that 2 or 3 times, and then again either leave about a 2 centimeter tail or put your needle through and let it float. So at this point, we would be turning up the hem, your seams would be sewn, and you would be cross-stitching it to the interfacing only. So when you're cross-stitching it to the interfacing, you are again just making sure that you're as consistent as possible with your stitches. So you can have your knot here or here. Try to have it to the inside as much as possible. Later on you'll be putting, oh that worked well, you'll be putting lining over this to cover the cross stitching. So do not make your cross stitching super deep. Aim for, again, at the max. 6 millimeters is a really handy size for a lot of things. 1/4 of an inch, 6 millimeters. So that is going super well today. Okay, we're gonna pretend I have a knot. One layer at a time. Catch the interfacing only. Go into the hem only. Go into the interfacing only. So again, this is most likely to be a garment that has got your side seams already sewn. So I don't want this to be confusing for you, but make sure that when you're doing this, pretend that you've got a garment on here so that you can have that idea of, oh yeah, there's going to be seam allowance. So I'm going to fold in the other side too, just to make that closer to what you'll be dealing with reality-wise. Again, for an unlined garment, if the fabric frays a lot, you will need to do an overcast stitch on your edges. We are covering hybrid sewing, so you're not going to be doing it as much. So you basically are just paying attention to your fabric. If it is this type of fabric that's going to fray a lot, you don't want it to disintegrate, so you do want to do something on your edges. But I don't want people to be serging, because that is an added bulk. It's too heavy in most cases. On your own, of course, you do you. But for class, the idea being to keep things as delicate and refined and lightweight as possible. So when you hit your seam allowance, you will stitch into the seam allowance, and then you'd imagine that this is continuing. So from here, I'm just going to make a knot, but that is the hem installation with the interfacing for a lined garment. We will be applying lining over the top of that later to create an ease pleat.